Keller.
I've never seen so many excited people to hear the most boring presentation. Right? You woke up this morning and you said, inflation, GDP, unemployment. Oh, man. Or you thought Tony was coming back, the night of disappointment. You wore his tennis shoes, so I said, what the heck, I'm wearing mine today. He was awesome, wasn't he? You know, I didn't get to meet him, but I did go get to use his private bathroom. So I'm feeling special. Man, that guy's tall, isn't he? He's a towering. It was awesome. You know, back in the 80s, I was struggling, and I found Tony Robbins, and I found him in the book Unlimited Power. And if you've never read that book, that's Tony Robbins. If you enjoyed yesterday, that's Unlimited Power. So if you're looking for a good book to read, even though it was written in the 80s, Unlimited Power. All right, so we have where'd everybody go? So, this is Ruben. They may have locked him in the bathroom or somewhere. What were y'all doing? Oh, you were looking for the pickle. So we look forward to this as well. We get the opportunity to and thank you for the privilege of being able to do this. We look forward to this as a group because we get to hang out every day and pour through. How big is that binder?
It's a big one this year.
Yeah.
About 180 pages, Gary.
How many?
180.
180 pages in an hour and a half. Here we go. Right. So the first thing we want to do is walk you through the numbers that drive the U.S. economy, and then we'll look at Canada. Okay? So there's 7 areas that we look at. Right? Home sales, home prices, market volume, inventory, mortgage rates, the treasury spread, and then that affordability issue. Right? So let's look at home sales first. And we had bets on this, what we thought the transaction volume for the United States would be. You said
I was at the 3.7.
Jason was very pessimistic. I, by the way, said 4.1 and I won. Jason said, how did you do that? And I said, I just looked across the line and figured we wouldn't go below as bad as it was in the Great Recession. So I kind of cheated, that's all. But I think it is kind of true. We talked about this, and that is, and Tony Robbins made this comment yesterday, in fact, that population grows, so we're in a great industry. You have to remember that the population grows, and as it grows, it brings forth more people that want to buy real estate. So at the end of the day, if you looked at trend lines over a long period of time, you would see new bottoms probably every 10 to 20 years, right?
Yeah, the floor is kind of defined. Wow, that's really loud. The floor is kind of defined by, like, look at 2008. These are people who had to move.
Yeah.
So divorces, babies, marriage, that drive the new floor.
Yeah. So what you had going on is we have what I would call kind of a mobility experience for the first time. And basically you had extremely low interest rates, historically low interest rates, and all of a sudden you had the work from home movement. I could live anywhere and I could afford almost anything. And that took us to a place we hadn't really seen before in terms of affordability, right? And now, of course, we have the opposite effect. People are locked into low interest rates. So we have a no mobility problem now because they're locked into these low interest rates. In their minds, they're locked into low interest rates. And all of a sudden, businesses have begun to understand that coming to the office is more effective than fully 100% working from home. So all of a sudden now, we have just the opposite. I'll leave that one last thing, and that is that yellow, that projection, ignore that. This is what they're projecting. I don't know about that. It could be that. If you go back to 08 and 09, that's exactly what happened. I'm going to lay a prediction out. My prediction is, and Tony Robbins said it, and that is you're in winter right now, and it's going to stay winter for a while. So if you were hoping that this year would give relief, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be exactly the same. Which, by the way, we're going to show you in a second, in many ways is great news. It is great news, by the way. But the market's not going to give you anything for a little while. And we'll talk about inflation a little later this morning, and we'll have a conversation. All this is to point out to you that Jason actually was a winner for a month.
It's no big deal. It's okay.
Yeah, you were good. Yeah, for a month you got it right. Remember, 4.1 was for the entire year, but boy, it definitely it got down to that number by the end of it, right? Home prices. So this is where affordability comes into play again, right? The cost of money and the price of real estate is literally what creates affordability or the lack of affordability. So again, if you go back, you get this sense of a trend line, and a trend line being 4% appreciation annually. And it's a great way to try to understand where we are from an affordability standpoint. So if you go back to 06, you were 24% above the 4% line. And what happened? We had the Great Recession. Right? Okay. We're 9.3 right now. And I say that, and people go, really? It feels more expensive than that. And you go, well, you do understand that in 36 months, we added $100,000 to the median home price, right? We literally started, what would that have been, about 21 or whatever, end of 20?
Well, and this slide is so important because this perception that prices are outrageously high, it's just not the case.
No,
you have to give your people perspective.
Yeah, relative to where they were 36 months ago, they feel outrageously high. But as it relates to the trend line, here's the challenge. If it's just the price alone that's going to affect affordability, we're going to need to get back to the 4% line. If homes didn't grow but by zero for the next 9 years, we'd be there, right?
Yeah, at zero it would probably take a little bit less, but even between 2 and 4, you're talking 4 to 6 years just to get to the back to the
So if we have no appreciation for 4 to 6 years, you're back to the trend line. But what happened in the last 3 months, really?
Yeah, we've been averaging between 4 and 5% for 3 months again now, so we're right on the trend line.
Okay. Yeah, we just can't help ourselves, right? Yeah. So this tells an interesting tale. It also shows you what happened as it relates to other time periods, right? So I think what's really interesting, just to note that you literally are back in this period of low price appreciation. The challenge is we have low supply, and when you have decent demand and low supply, you know what happens, right? Yeah. Now, we didn't actually see massive appreciation during the last 2 years. Why? We should have seen more.
It's been interesting, right? We had really low inventory, but we've also got really low demand. So the people who are listing are motivated, despite the fact that there's not a lot of listings out there.
Yeah, that's right. There's less demand than we would want. So when you have low supply like that, you would expect to see high appreciation. except what you have here is low demand with low supply, and thus you get low appreciation. It's kind of what happened, right? So this is really interesting. This would take you an hour to stare at, so let me just be your guide on this one. So what you're staring at is kind of a historical appreciation timeline, and what we want you to notice a couple of things. One is let your eye go to every spot where it says 0%. You see that? Okay, so here's what you'll know, and that is over history, what goes up comes down, what is down goes up. And absolutely, and they do this in order to continually readjust around affordability. Okay? And all you're seeing here is the adjustment around affordability, around prices, right? Also want you to notice that if you go to December of 02, you'll notice that, 82, sorry. You'll notice that recession was caused by the Fed. And then if you go to the next one, March of 91, you'll notice that recession was caused by the banking crisis. And if you go to February 09, you'll notice that was caused by the finance community. And if you go to the current one, you'll notice it's the Fed again. So one of the statements that you've heard me make over the years, if you put up with my boring rant, I constantly say that most likely it's the government that's going to throw you into a recession, or it's going to be the banking community. One of the two are going to most likely be the culprits. So you want to watch what's going on, okay? Because they'll tell you what's happening. Right now, you're in one being caused by the Fed. By the way, the Fed wants us to come right up on the border of a recession.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, that's an economic recession, because right now, real estate is in a recession. You are in a recession, but the economy's not in a recession. So as long as they can keep us in a recession and keep the economy out of a recession, they're going to keep rates high. Yes or no?
That's right. What they don't want is February 09. That's so unprecedented that we lost so much home value, and that's such a huge part of the average American's wealth. They can't let it crash like that again. So they will act before they let prices drop for multiple years in a row.
Well, they can let it crash. They don't want it to crash.
Right.
But most likely they will make it crash for a period of time.
But that's a big idea, because we're in a real estate recession right now.
We are.
And then you looked up the other day and said, we could come out of a real estate recession, and then the whole economy could go into a recession, and that really depressed
I
me.
made that comment to Jason, he got really depressed.
I hadn't considered that, because usually you go from a tough time to a good time. The idea for all of us to go from a tough time to a tougher time, that is no fun.
And the big question there, though, is if we hit a recession, right, rates probably go down. So then it's, which way does it go?
But here's what Tony Robbins said, and he was 100% correct, and that is businesses and careers are really built in tough times, not easy times, right? When the market recedes, when the market goes flat, if you can hold your ground during that time period, you are set up for the next 5 to 10 years. You will make your money, no matter what industry you're in, by the way, if you can do it. If you just ride it and you suffer along with everyone else, not so good, by the way, okay? So you have to find a way to hold your own during this. Now, when we say we're in a recession, what I want to point out is that we've already receded. We've already receded, okay? And this is it right here. That's already happened. So this is in trillions. This is volume. And what we want you to notice here is simply go to the purple line, okay? Which is what happened last year at just a little over 2 trillion in volume, and then count the number of times that the volume was higher than that, and you'll notice that this was the 3rd best volume year in the history of the industry, which is why it wasn't all bad news, right? Transaction numbers were much lower. The volume was the 3rd highest, right? Good or bad?
Well, good, but there's also a bunch of real estate agents. There's a lot of them. And so the key for me on this slide is that it's never been more of a contact sport. Like the only way to defend against volume and transactions and more agents is to make more contacts to your database.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the number of agents in about an hour. So we'll get to that part of that. Yeah. All right. So this is interesting. So Rubin actually, adjusted for inflation, turns out from an inflation-adjusted number, this was the 8th best volume number. That's all that says. So then we look at inventory, and again, really unprecedented when you look at what's happening, right? The inventory is unbelievably low, right?
Yeah, it's something here, Gary. We see the low inventory. We saw 12.5% inflation. Now this year we only saw 1%. So that tells you it's a bit odd, but it's going to regress back to the mean if you look at history. So we've already seen prices starting to move back up again, and that's what we should continue to expect.
Yeah, you're referring back to that 0.9.
That's exactly right.
2. Yeah. I gotta find my place. Yeah, there you go. You would have expected it to be higher.
That's right.
Yeah, but it wasn't. And why wasn't it high? Why didn't we see higher inflation?
The low demand.
Because of low demand. Because of the cost of money.
That's right.
The demand is there. When we say low demand, let's be real clear. The real demand is off the chart, right? We have the millennials who are just sitting here waiting to try to buy a house and move out of the home with their parents. They are. But the cost of money, right, is so expensive, they're still biding their time and saving money. We hope. We'll see in a second they're not saving as much as they're supposed to be saving. Right? So then we get to mortgage rates, and this is really the culprit, right? You have prices and you have the cost of money. And understand that over your lifetime, they do this. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. We had unprecedented times. Mortgage rates were historically low. We got down to below 3%. There are people in this room that have mortgages below 3%, guys. Unprecedented, right? But the problem is you fall in love with the rate. And here we go, right? So where do we sit today? 7.1?
Yeah, we're about 7.1 today.
Okay, so we sit about 7.1 today. Go ahead, you want to say something? Okay, yeah, so I always point out when I discuss this that I got in real estate in 79, and you can see what the rates were when I got in. By the way, we sold houses. And I didn't really think, at that time, no one ever talked about national numbers or whatever, and so I never even thought about what was happening nationally or whatever. I just set a goal of the number of homes I needed to do, sales and transactions I needed to do that year. I created an action plan to go do it, and I hit my goal. Even though interest rates were at that 16, 17, 18%, I still just hit my goal.
When that was the line, right? Just because there's less opportunities doesn't mean your opportunity is less. There's always enough sales for everyone else.
Right. Yeah, just because there's less opportunity doesn't mean your opportunity is less. 100% true. But you have to do, you have to build a business of relationships based on service. You have to offer a unique value, right, that allows you to then charge a unique value of compensation. You have to stay in a relationship. If you do that, you're going to be okay. If you don't, this industry is very challenging. Okay? We can put this up here to give you an easier understanding of what the journey has been. And we took it all the way back to 2015. But look at the journey. And again, so people look up today and they go, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. And yet, look, the historical trend line is 7.7%. The last 25 years, approximately, it's at 6.8. You're right there at the trend line. And the reason why these slides are important is to show people this is where you are. Most people, if you didn't bring this information, where would they get it? They would have to be so curious. They would be in there getting on Google, not Bing, right, according to Tony. They'd be getting on Google, and they would be saying, what's the historic average of mortgage rates? Who does that? Nobody does it, so they don't know. They don't realize that historically, this is not incredibly expensive. It's only expensive if you look back over the last 15 years. Okay? But it's not historically expensive.
But Gary, if we allow them to wait for rates to come down, which may not happen that soon, like I don't think we're doing our job. I mean, we were brainstorming. We have 40% of the homes out there that are mortgage free. And we have all of these homes that are locked into low rates. We need to tell them, well, why not keep your home, rent the home, maybe own or finance your free and clear home, use that revenue to finance the difference in the new interest rates. It takes in experts to tell people how to move in this market. This is our time.
Yeah. Again, there's plenty of business for anybody that wants to go do it. Okay, there's plenty of demand for that. But you have to find your unfair share. That's the trick, which means you'll have to do the activities to cause that to happen. If you don't, you're going to look like the market. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so this is interesting. So there's this idea called the treasury spread. And because a lot of people say, well, where do they get the mortgage rate from? And typically, where they get it is they look at the treasury bill, whatever that's set at, and then they add a risk premium on top of that for the risk of a 30-year mortgage. Also trying to make the 30-year mortgage more attractive, or attractive enough that people will go buy mortgage-backed securities. And what you're showing, if you look at the green, did that make sense? So you just take the T-bill and you add the spread, and that's what you get the current rate at. It's not complicated. And if you look at the green line tells you what the historic spread is, which is 1.74% above the T-bill. Right now, you're sitting at 2.85% above the T-bill. How come?
Risk, right?
Yeah.
There's two types of risk to the people who loan mortgages. There's the risk you don't pay, and there's the risk that you refinance too soon, and they don't get their money in their bond, right? So those are both risks right now.
Right.
That elevates that. Historically, no, this is a temporary phenomenon. If you look at that graph, it doesn't stay high very often. So there's about 1 percentage point that we could come down, agnostic of what the Fed does in a sense, as the housing market normalizes.
Yeah. So they're trying to make the 30-year mortgage attractive, so there's a spread. Right now, we're seeing a higher spread. You made a comment to us in the research room the other day, and that is, just remember that because this is an abnormally high spread, there's probably about, if you look at it, there's over a 1% spread right now between the historical number average. And what that means is that when things calm down, you could see mortgage rates drop a point without the feds or anybody really mucking with anything.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that could happen. Most likely that is what happens at some point. Okay? Okay. All right, so then we get to affordability. Right? I always go back, my birth into this industry was when affordability was 49% of your income. That's how I got in. People today look at 32% and they go, oh my gosh, this is horrible because it used to be 17 or it used to be 18. I think for a day or two it even got to 16% of your income. Okay, that's awesome. But the trend line says 27%. That's what you would expect over your lifetime would be 27%. Okay? You're only at 32. So again, it's more perception and it's more where you want to put your money. And it's fascinating again because the baby boomers we have what's the word? We have now entered our what did Tony call us? We're all winter people now. Right?
It's true.
Yeah. But now we're being driven by millennials, right? There's like 78 million millennials, right? And they're now entering their peak power, their 35 to 45.
Summer months. Is that the summer months where they get to raise their incomes and careers? I'm getting my seasons and stuff.
The problem is that for millennials, they have, what's the number? The education.
39% are carrying student debt.
Yeah, but yes, 39%. By the way, student debt has the cost of college education at the end of the baby boomer era has gone up 300%.
Yes.
So it's 39% of them are in debt at an increase of 300%. Now, by the way, those payments average somewhere around $299, something like that. It's not an astronomical payment. That's the average. It's not astronomical, but it is enough. It is a problem. You know, the challenge we have is because millennials are not buying because of the cost of money. They're not buying homes, they're not buying cars, they're not setting aside retirement money. They're buying experiences instead of real estate, right? They're going to restaurants, they're taking trips, they're investing in technology experiences, right? Yeah. Which, by the way, is going to really haunt them someday. This is going to be a real problem if an adult in this room doesn't get to them and say, I don't care. You need to think, if you happen to live long enough, your life's going to suck if you keep acting this way.
Yeah, as the only millennial on the stage, this is passionate.
Yeah, well, I would advise you if you were a millennial and you were behaving that way, if you happen to have children, you should make them sign a contract the second that they're old enough to sign it, but not smart enough to know what they're signing. But they have to personally support you for the rest of your life, because you're going to need it. It's very real. It's very, very real. Okay. All right, let's look at Canada real quick. And the interesting thing again is Canada and the United States are literally they're literally tied at the hip. So the numbers look very similar, right? So in Canada, same thing with home sales. It had a dramatic drop in 22, had a slightly lower drop in 23, and they actually expect sales in Canada to go up this year. If we look at home prices, you look up and you go, wow, holy cow, it costs that for a home? But if you turn around and put it in U.S., something happened.
We cut that slide, Gary.
Oh no, you cut my slide. Oh no. What was that? What was the number?
It's
500?
Yeah, it's about 500.
Okay. So, yeah, that's right. So home prices, that's in Canadian dollars. In American dollars, it'd be closer to 500. Okay. So about 100 or so thousand US dollar difference between the pricing. Okay. If we look at inventory, oddly enough, even at those prices, it's in that balanced zone, which is, what I think is really fascinating. Right? Mortgage rates kind of mirrors the United States again, so it's very expensive. And they have an affordability issue. When you look at those prices, and then you look at the rates, very, very expensive, right? So here we go. Affordability is at an all-time, unaffordability is an all-time high in Canada right now. Right? The historical average is 44% of your income for your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Right now, it's 69% of your income for a single-family home. Right?
The thing to watch there, Gary, is their mortgage system. Everybody locks in for 5 years. So there are people who locked in 2019, 2020 at low rates, that those are going to go and become adjustable soon. And that's going to really impact the affordability of the home they already own. So that could push more people to start selling their homes and start the cycle again.
Yeah, we'll see that when we get to GDP. It's actually impacted their economy more than ours because a lot of people's mortgage rates are already, mortgage payments are already doubling.
Right. Yep, okay. Real quickly, I want to introduce my friend Dario. Dario, say hi, wake up. He has earplugs in, you can't hear him.
He's very focused.
He's very focused. So my friend from Italy, he's come to paint for you today. So if you want him to do a custom piece for you, prices go from $175 to $275 roughly, and he'll paint you whatever you want him to paint for you. And he's very good. He's an art teacher. Okay, so now let's go to the U.S. economy, and let's look at the numbers that drive it. The first one is GDP, gross domestic product, right? So this is spending. So when you think about an economy, if people are spending, if they're buying stuff, then the economy does real well. If people aren't buying things, the economy doesn't do so well, okay? So you look at GDP. So So we look at GDP on an annualized basis. And you can see that the last 2 years have come back down. The number that they want to see is 2%. That's the number. Okay? 2% growth in spending. If you see 3, 4, 5%, even though those sound like small percentage jumps, that's actually very robust, and the economy goes on fire, right? At a 5.8, that economy is on fire. Okay, that is a lot. That's a lot of additional spending. Okay, last 2 years we're back where we want to be. Okay, and that's really good. That has a lot to do with the cost of money, by the way. If we look at it on a quarterly basis, you can see though that the last 2 quarters of 23, son of a bum, everybody started spending again.
Yeah. We're on a pace in Q1 this year to be 3% again.
Yeah. Shoot.
Why do you say that?
Well, because in an ideal world right now, we'd like to see GDP around 1. If we had GDP for 1, it would go a long way towards solving our problems. If people would just start saving more right now and quit spending, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, save to spend in the future instead of spend now. So you'll still get to spend all your money, just don't spend it all today. Right? If you would just show a little restraint, that 4.9 and that 3.3 is very concerning. The government, this is why the federal government looks at it, and even though they're going, look, inflation is going down, inflation's been going down, inflation isn't going down right now, at least not the last few months. It's starting to heat back up a little bit. That's not good. Now, it's an election year, so we would expect the government to do everything in their power. They can't control rates, but they can control other things to try to end up with great economic news, right? Because presidents get elected and they get defeated over the economic numbers. So what's really interesting about this graphic, this is not an EKG. Though it could be. Here's what we want you to look at. The yellow line is existing home sales growth. The blue line is GDP. All I want you to notice is go all the way to the far left, and I want you to notice that whenever the yellow line goes down, the blue line typically goes down a little after that, right? Go to 2000. Go to 00, look up. Notice the yellow goes, and then the blue goes, okay? Then go to 07, the yellow goes, and then the blue goes. You see that? And then notice again in 21, 22, right? 18, 19, sorry. Down it goes, and then here we are again. The only reason we're telling you that is that the industry that you happen to be in is a true lagging indicator for how GDP goes. So again, here we are. The lagging indicator says that GDP is going to suck for a while.
Yeah, that's the big question right now. Do we get the soft landing, or does that tell us we're heading to the harder landing? So, economists are split right now about 50-50 for the second half of the year. Do we see a recession, or do we see smooth sailing in the economy?
Well, we're not split. We don't want a recession. I hate it.
Let me just make this highly controversial statement. A good recession would set everybody up in this room for almost a decade of amazing.
I know, it hurts.
It hurts. Going to the gym hurts.
Which I do go, as you
But it's good for you.
Yeah.
Eating your broccolini could be painful for you, Jason. But it's good for you, buddy.
Hard times make strong people. Isn't that what we heard yesterday?
Tough times make, yes, that's what he said last, yes, that's exactly what he showed you. Hard times make, there you go. Okay, unemployment. So, again, here we are, right? And if we spread this out a little bit, you can begin to see 3.6 is literally at an all-time, right there at an all-time low, okay? Going back, okay, thank you. If you look at what happened, though, in the last 3 months, it's started to creep up. Now they're predicting this year that we're going to see unemployment around 4.2, something like that. Remember the number. The number is 6% unemployment. Anything below 6% unemployment is, in the United States, is considered healthy. Anything above that, we got a problem. Notice, you're so far below that. So they're not unhappy with that. Actually, from an economic standpoint, they don't want people going, oh, I don't have a job. But the reality is, if you could get to 4.5% to 5% unemployment, that would slow down spending, wouldn't it?
We see this as we all were paying more for our people. It's a competitive market, and when wages go up, it can create that spiral where prices go up because now I've got to pay my people more, so I have to charge more. So it can't stay there for too long, or we risk that side of the equation.
Well, and the reality is, because it's so competitive, everyone has to be building a bench. And you had said years and years ago, you should take career visioning 15 to 20 times. And we all did. Like, that was in vogue to do. And I think one of the reasons we did it is if you took it every year, you were always focused on looking for better people and looking for good people. And you're going to have to look harder when everyone's employed.
So the truth of the matter is, if we could get, if unemployment actually went to like 4.5 in that range, that might be enough.
It's good.
Yeah, that's right. They call that like the natural rate. There's a natural rate of unemployment, they call it. That's the rate at which like inflation's in line, growth is in line, everything's kind of just cruising along without seeing a lot of inflation. Right now, we're probably below that.
Yeah, actually, if all those real estate agents that don't want to sell any real estate just got out, it might do the trick.
That wasn't very nice. I didn't say that.
It's your self-talk.
That's my self-talk, yeah. Yeah, so here we go. So we talked about millennials and saving money. Right now, people are not saving enough money.
Well, when you look at this, from 1960 to 1990, the average saving rate was 11%.
Yeah.
You look 1990 to today, it's 5.7%. So people have changed the way they think about money.
Well, they were all sitting at home, and they got pandemic money, right? Yeah, so they got that, and they were sitting at home, and they didn't have anything to spend it on. So they bought things, and then the second they were freed from their homes, they started buying services and experiences, and it'll come back up. So there was just this thing happening in the world, but it's going to come back up. It is, and we needed to, Michael. We needed to. But again, to your point, if we could get that savings rate right now, if everybody just saves 10% of their income, the economy, all the problems would be solved within a year.
And everybody has a down payment saved up too, which we like.
Yeah, inflation would, right? Immediately there wouldn't be as much demand, but your money isn't going anywhere. You haven't wasted it. You haven't lost it. It's just sitting there on the sideline. And it literally, demand would go down, prices would go down, everything would start calming down. And within a year, maybe 2 years, we'd be off and running. People just save their money and then spend it.
The irony is, this is the first time in a decade we can get meaningful interest on a savings rate. You can actually get something on your money if you're holding it.
Yeah, we're going to see that a little bit where wealthy people put their money, and that's exactly right. All right. So we look at inflation. Just realize that we're at about 3.4 if you include energy and food, because they have come down in price. If you take those out, it's a little higher at 3.9. That's not the number. What they're hoping is we get a soft landing and start being back around 2% by the end of 24, maybe in 25. That's what they want to see. That would be great. Okay, that would be really good. So just keep an eye on that. This is just a chart to show you real quick that how unaffordable some things have gotten. Hospital services up 238%. Right, it says 2,000. College tuition up 177%. Right? Textbooks up 139. So by the way, medical care, child care. So literally going to school and getting sick is where all the cost increases have occurred. Which is crazy, right? I love the bottom. The thing that has gone backwards is the cost of a TV. But you've experienced that, right? You're looking at your TV and go, I don't like my TV anymore. Oh, great. $125. I can get a 7-foot, bring me another one. In fact, bring me one every week. They're so cheap. Right? What was it? You put in your notes, the Macintosh, when it came out, was the equivalent, the price they charged for
It was
that?
$7,300 then. It's like $18,000 today. Is that right?
Yeah, if you adjust it for inflation, a computer would have cost you $18,000 if we were still buying MacBooks from the 80s.
And so Macintosh in today's dollars would be 18,000. What is it?
Probably like $1,000 you can get. I mean, for much less than that, you can get a laptop. We've all got supercomputers in our pockets right now that are
Do you remember
100
that
times
too?
faster.
It was like a television set, and they called it portable because you could put it in a bag and carry it on a plane. It's like 60 pounds.
I do think it's important to remember that even though inflation is coming down, all that means is that prices are still going up, just slower. Because when you look around, to me, everything feels really expensive.
Yeah, what was the phrase that was coined? Greedflation?
Well, there was that.
They just raised the prices. They didn't have to raise it. I mean, the profits in the product industries right now are unbelievable.
But Jay, once the prices get there, though, they don't come down for sure.
Well, we know this from housing. Like prices are sticky up. So they said they go up like rockets and they fall like feathers. If you've already got the price out there, unless you're trying to put a competitor like us, why would you lower it?
You don't. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want prices to go down. Some of us, like, it feels like you should, right? But if you think about it on whole, if everyone's prices went down, every company's revenue would go down. And that means everyone's income has to go
I
down.
just wanted to stop going up for a little while.
Yeah,
That would be ideal.
I just want the price of coffee to come down.
Or the price of salmon.
Have you seen you go out for dinner?
Oh my gosh. But
You should skip dinner and just buy a TV.
Yeah, when you come to these conventions like in Las Vegas, we should all bring our food. Yeah. So consumer sentiment, which is really kind of getting back where they wanted. The mean is 80, the number 80. So which the way they said that is, without going into detail, is that 50% are optimistic, 50% are pessimistic. And you're at 79 right now, which means you're getting back to equilibrium in terms of consumer sentiment right now. People are feeling okay. They're not feeling amazingly bad or amazingly good. On average, they're just okay. That's not a bad place to be.
They ask 5 questions in this survey, Gary, and about half of them are about the future. How do you feel about the next 5 years? That's where the most improvement has actually happened in creating that number. People are starting to feel more optimistic about, looking forward, not just about what's happening right now.
Good, thank you. Yep. Okay, so look at Canadian economy, same situation again. GDP, people are not spending money right now, okay? And it's dropped. We look at unemployment, they're in kind of the same situation, okay? That's and 5.4 is not a bad number.
Yeah, they calculate it a little bit different, so that's healthy in Canada.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Isn't that about 1% higher than
Yeah,
us?
it's about a 1.5% difference. They count a few different people.
And they count it differently. So that 5.4 would be like a 4.4 in the United States, and we're at 3.7. So very similar numbers.
They're also close to all-time lows, so that's kind of a reference point.
Yeah. Same issue. Inflation almost looks identical to America. and in Canada, again, the same as America, and that's at 2% is a target for the government. So again, different prices, if you will, in terms of the pricing is a little higher. But other than that, it's the same experience across U.S. and Canada. All right, so let's look at the 10, what you would say, indicators, leading indicators for where we're going. So let's look at the first one, size per agent. Okay. We're at an all-time low. Okay. The trend line is 10 sides per agent on average, but with 1.5 million licenses that are tied to the National Association of Realtors, there's your number, right? Again, if sales go to 4.3, in that range, then that number can jump to 5.7 if we don't see a dramatic drop, right? Yeah. So ideally, we need to see about 300,000 people get out of the industry.
Yeah, if we followed the same pattern we followed in 08, we'd see about 160,000 agents fall out of the industry this year.
Here's what's important to remember though when you look at this, is that it's always been an equal opportunity, unequal reward industry. And the difference is the habits and the systems that you run. So even when you look at this at an all-time low, there are tons of agents that are gonna have their best year ever.
Oh yeah.
That's simply a choice.
The only reason this is even important is just to explain to you why it feels harder, okay? In terms of it determining your income, in the end, it will to a small degree. Your expenses will determine it more, right? So you got to manage your expenses harder than ever before during times like this, right? Well, volume per agent. So again, we showed you this kind of slide before, but what is that? 1, 2, count above the purple line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So 6th best year on record for volume. Right, 6th best. Right. So again, you could take your whatever the commissions or whatever fees that you charge for your business and multiply it times that average volume, and that would give you a sense of it, right? Again, why were they celebrating? Why did Tony come out and say, you just had the greatest run in business history? Because he was talking about 21 and 22 is what he was talking about. And there's no question about it. I mean, the industry was drunk with success. The hangover sucks. Right? Yeah. So, listing price drops. So this is interesting, right? If you notice again, this is seasonal, right? This is why we want to show it to you this way. It's seasonal, right?
Yeah, we saw the adjustment period at the second half of last year, right? Mortgage rates started ratcheting up. All of a sudden, the market had to get back in line with affordability. This year, they were a little bit lower. We saw it pop in October when mortgage rates again, boom. That wasn't driven by there being more listings on the market or anything like that. It's literally stuff sitting, right?
Well, you would expect that in the lower months you would see higher price drops, but you don't. I would expect in December, instead of a 32, I would expect it to see 57, because you're selling less real estate.
And there's fewer homes that naturally come on the market then too. There's a lot fewer homes that come on the market.
That's the answer.
In January. Yeah.
That's the answer. That's what I wanted you to say. That's the answer. So what's really crazy is that low inventory coupled with low demand shows up like that. So instead of, you're not seeing as big a drops as you would normally see because of that during that time period. So we see the same issue again, and that is, and I think that's fascinating, right? So you had 4.8 million homes brought to the market in 2023. You sold 4.1, right? You had 5.4 million come on the market in the previous year, and you sold what? 5.1? 5. Fascinating, isn't it?
What I love about this one is you look at the low months, that we talk about the floor. Where's the floor on the market? Where only the motivated live? That's where we saw the months where it was around 4.1 million transactions. That's all your divorce, death, babies, diamonds, all those life reasons drive those moves. The summer months, the top just got cut off this year. If you didn't have those reasons, you weren't rushing out in the summertime to list your home.
Ruben made the argument, that's right out, that we're kind of near this theoretical low point.
Yeah, we're scraping the bottom of people who can move given economic conditions, right?
Because there's so many people, there's so many houses, and someone's got to move.
Here's the great news. It will not be worse than last year. Yay! Let's have a t-shirt made.
It's a hell of a rallying cry.
Yeah, it won't be worse.
We hit bottom.
I think you hit bottom. I think that's legit. You hit bottom.
It's kind of fun to say that in Vegas.
That's good. That's good. That's good. All right, distress sales, it's just non-existent right now. Right, we're just not seeing it.
There is a little bit of a story here, though, because although distressed sales is wildly low, there's evidence that the people that are late on their mortgage payments is actually going up. And those are people that we can really help. And the key to that is two parts. It's number one, knowing who is late on their payments, and then number two, asking the question, how can we help them? Those are the folks that need perspective, they need your guidance, they need your help.
Yeah, they're not distressed yet. They're just not making a payment.
By the way,
the thing is they may not still be distressed.
if you don't
They have
make
so much equity.
and if you don't make your payment long enough, you're distressed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
You're at the very beginning of that.
that's right. Yeah. Same with underwater homes. We're just not there. 6% is the historic average, and we're at 1.8. It's hard to imagine that you'd even have 1.8, isn't it?
Yeah, they took the survey after they bought their home last month. I mean, it's gotta be so recent, or in one of those markets, like Austin, home prices went down.
Yeah, how could
Right,
you-
so some markets went down, even though the national average, but
that
not many.
you're at a historic low,
Yeah,
right? You're at an all-time low.
It keeps speaking to Jason's point, though, right? That a lot of those people who are late on their payments probably do have equity in their houses,
Yeah,
basically.
they're not. Yeah, that's right.
That's the key. They have options. But
They have options today. But if you're not out there talking to people and having these conversations, how would they know?
right.
They wouldn't know. Again, real estate's a contact sport. And what's fascinating is if you just got your information from the newspaper or the Wall Street Journal, or you got it from the Fox or
God forbid you get it from YouTube because they don't. Unbelievable.
They don't talk like this at all. So the reason why we cover this, as boring as it is, if you could, and we say this every year, if you just go get this packet, because you can download it, and go hang out with 5 or 10 people, and just sit down and have a long lunch or a long dinner, and just talk through the pages, and then talk about your local market as compared, you'd be shocked at how powerful you will feel when you're done. The power you will feel is that you will have the knowledge that everyone else out there in the market doesn't have. Even your own banker, even your own mortgage companies will not have this kind of knowledge. They don't take the time to learn it, by the way. And it will put you in an amazing position to go out fearlessly and talk to people about what's really happening, right? People say it's expensive. And you say, well, I mean, not really. When you look at the trend lines. Well, what are the trend lines? Well, let's talk.
I was holding a session about people that are late on their payments and how to help them, and someone said, well, that's kind of like being an ambulance chaser. And I was a little bit taken back by it, because I was thinking, if these hands could do surgery and save people, I'd be chasing every ambulance in town. I want to find the people that need the most help and then help them.
Yeah, well said.
You are the ambulance.
Can I add to that conversation about the media? I think there's never been a better year for us to be the economist of choice. Everybody is aware that we have a national election, right? And it's the economy, stupid. So if you're on the challenging side, you want to say how everything is the worst it's ever been. And if you're trying to keep your job, you're trying to say how you've done a good job. There will be more short-term noise this year than we've seen probably in 4 years, which is your opportunity to be the voice of truth. Let me tell you what it's really like.
100%. Yeah. So, by the way, there's a slight tightening around credit scores, right, and qualifying ratios. That's what they're right, but not a whole lot, right. New home starts. So this is very important. Remember, again, if you look at 2008 on, you'll notice that we're missing about 2 to 3 million homes that weren't built. This is why you feel the supply issue in America today. It's really that simple. The challenge is that they're not building a lot of starter homes, right? The home building industry figured out it's just easier to sell $1 million house than it is to try to go build 3 that would be affordable. To them, it's the same profit margin. So we don't have a lot of starter homes being built. You want to go change your world, go back and start pounding on the door of your local government and asking them what they're doing about affordability, okay, for first-time homebuyers. Seriously, just go home and start making a few calls. You could move a mountain, by the way. So we kind of got back to this number right at the end.
The last 2 months, actually, December and January, have been on pace to be 1 million.
That's right.
That's the number. You're just looking at 1 million. The new home sales, don't be alarmed by that.
We basically saw them moving through their inventory last year, right? They stopped building, but they started rolling off what they already had developed off their books. We saw them doing things like incentives. They could do a lot more with mortgage rates.
Well, this number is simply the number of homes that were built to be sold. When you look at the million number, right? That includes custom homes, owner-built homes, homes built to rent. But when we talk about, okay, great, get it, girl. Yeah, when we look at that number, that's the homes that were built to be sold. So that's about right, okay?
Well, and this was felt differently depending on the size of your building company. The huge building companies that had vertical integration, mortgage companies, were able to offer more incentives than the regional builder, and it was the quote-unquote little guy that really got stuck in the holding prices, right?
Yeah. So that's not a bad number. That's a good number. Those are the homes that were built to be sold, okay? Here's the dilemma, and it's just not getting better. So what you just notice is that the size of the yellow is the same size, right? And it's just a lot. It's a lot. Let's see. Yeah, this is the interesting one right here, because I want you to notice that as rates got cheaper, the amount of mortgage debt service got lower, but spending didn't, right? So what happened was people started spending more on other stuff because they weren't paying as much for their house, which I think is fascinating.
So they spent it either way. They just
spent
spent it on stuff.
Sure, yeah. And again, it's really hard. It's hard to get people to imagine that they could actually live a long life, because if you're going to live a long life and you recognize the seasons of your life, then you try to do things that don't cost money and put your money into assets early in your life that will reward you over your entire lifetime. And what's happening right now is millennials aren't doing that. And that means that we need to be teaching Quantum Leap more than ever before to our millennials, to try to get them to understand that for them, it ought to be, right, where it says 4% on mortgage, there should say like 9%. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I always, people always say, what about prices? They go up and down. I said, yeah, the first investment I bought, paid $65,000 for it and watched it go to $19,000 and sold it for $95,000. Right? All you do is show them the trend lines and say, look, because over time the cost of things go up, that's why real estate goes up. It's going to go up. So don't buy a stupid piece of real estate, and you're going to be okay.
Well, that's what's so frustrating about all these YouTube gurus that would have you believe that owning a personal residence is a bad idea. It's just sheer buffoonery.
Yeah, and the reason they do that is because they have about a 10-year history of understanding.
Yeah, they have the collective memory of a house farm.
Yeah, the thing I loved about Tony Robbins is what I read back in the 80s is what he said yesterday. And so what he's learned is that things, right, the foundational truths don't change. Okay, well, there's a foundational truth here as well. And that is, if you buy a good piece of real estate over time, it becomes the foundation of your cost of living, right?
That's why you have $30 trillion in home equity.
I can't tell you how many people that I know have very little in savings, but their home is now worth $1.2 million. And I promise you, they're getting ready in the next couple of years to sell that house, take that money, and move out of the city or move to another city to retire. And that is their retirement. Thank God they did it.
Well, that's what our buddy Dan Amara talks about all the time, that you're having these people that need the right size, and there's ways to do it.
This is the conversation you should be having, right? It's no different. Most of us are like doctors, and that is we don't get into prevention. We just try to cure. You should be into prevention. You should be talking to people and helping them be financially literate about money. That's called prevention. We tend to be in the cure business. Oh, you need to sell because you're distressed? That's awesome. Ching!
The stat we love.
It's like doctors issuing chemotherapy in Ching.
The stat you tell people early is the average net worth of a homeowner is 35 times the net worth of a renter.
Say it again.
The average net worth of a homeowner is 35 times the net worth of a renter.
No.
It's one of the biggest sources of wealth in our country, and people should start early and lock in their shelter cost.
Yes. I wonder if the millennials know that.
As a millennial,
What do you think?
That's a good lesson that we need. My people need.
They don't know.
I'm going to say millennial.
Well, you told them.
You think
that
single
parents
women
told
are
them?
buying homes at the highest rate ever? Single women are buying homes at the highest rate ever.
More than single men.
I think some of them are still playing video games in their parents' basement. I don't know. But they're house hacking. Some of them are getting really clever.
That was the loudest applause. Was that all single women?
Take it over. All right. So let's talk about the economic risk in 2024. So I'll take the first one, ineffectual governance. Duh. We can't pass anything in America right now. Right? Just can't do it. The spread, right? The divergence out there is so wide they can't make any decisions at all. At all. And over time, we're all going to pay for that kind of idiocy. We're just going to pay for it, right? Number two, global conflicts.
So, I mean, we obviously have Ukraine. I mean, that's been going on for a few years, and it's going to be going on for a while. And that the threat there is, does it spill over into a NATO country? And that, by treaty, pulls us into it. And then anything we've said, all bets are off, right? If we actually become in an active conflict. But it's also disrupting supply chains, right? So the cost of food, we heard Tony talk about that. It's hitting so many areas like fertilizer I wasn't even aware of. We also look at the Red Sea in the Middle East, supply chains. That's in the short term how it's going to impact our economy is supply chains get disrupted and the cost of some things gets way out of whack.
Yes, just pay attention because at any moment that other shoe could fall and all of a sudden things get escalated and things go to hell in a handbasket economically. Yeah. All right, financial systems risk stemming from commercial real estate.
Yeah, so to me, Gary, this is the one that I think our industry needs to pay the most attention to, and that, we saw that slide earlier. Every time we saw the appreciation go down toward that zero, it's a banking crisis, right?
Right.
Well, we've got something kind of brewing right now where we've got $2.8 trillion in commercial debt that's got to roll over in the next couple of years.
Couple of years, that's right.
So right now, a lot of what's happening is what they're calling extend and pretend. So these medium-sized banks that hold a lot of these loans, they're doing 1 year, 2 year extensions on this debt.
Well, that's what they just did, right?
Right.
They paid it off or they extended it for a year or two.
Exactly. Hoping that rates come down by the time, they really have to do something with it. Because if they have to mark down those valuations on their books, now these banks have a solvency problem potentially where their assets don't match their liabilities, and we get into a credit crisis. We saw it in like the
So let us take you back to the graphic that shows,
Yeah, exactly. Go back to that savings and loans crisis or even the Great Recession. Those are the kind of problems. So the good news is we're actually talking about this. It's not catching us by surprise. The Fed's already aware of it. They're working on how this works itself out. So that's the plus. But the risk is out there, and we're going to have to see, particularly with office, which we'll talk a little about earlier, kind of how that market's going to evolve, what we're going to do with these properties, and how banks are going to adjust.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, natural disasters.
It's a big deal, and it's not because weather, not because politics. We're having weather events. 2023 brought on the most severe weather events in the United States. You had 28 of them. That included 17 rain and flooding events in the East Coast. And when you add it up, you're talking over $100 billion in 1 year on damage. You're seeing it in your homeowners insurance rates, and who knows what will be in store for us this year.
Yeah, I read an article that said that natural disasters and severe weather events was the number one U.S. security risk.
Yeah, well, that's my mother, who's actively trying to control the weather on a daily basis. She calls me at least twice a day to tell me what's going on in the weather in multiple places. She's on top.
We should invite her up next year.
We'll have her in. Have her in.
She could give the weather report for us. That's a big deal. You know, it's a big deal. And again, go back to number one: ineffectual governance, and that is they want to argue about who's causing it, and you want to go, look, let's get past who's causing it. Let's talk about who's solving it. Let's just go solve it. Yeah, don't worry about it. We can't get past that. All right, let's look at luxury real quick. So let's start off by just looking at the world's wealthiest. And not a lot of change there. It actually went down a little bit, right? 7.4 million high net worth individuals in North America, right? With a total net worth of 25 trillion. Went down a little bit, but I don't think that's a significant. That was 2022. There's always a lagging year behind this.
Yeah. And equity markets came up a lot this last year, right? So that number may have reversed itself as the stock market.
Yeah, it may have already reversed itself. Yeah.
And again, that's the group that has over $1 million, excluding the equity in their home,
Excluding their-
and any collectibles. So you can't count your Beanie Baby collection in that.
That's exactly right. Or your house, that's right. So where do they put their money? And again, what's interesting is they put it in real estate, right? They put 15% of it. They don't put 15% into Beanie Babies, right? Wealthy individuals own real estate, right? What's fascinating is in 2022 how much went into cash, and they took it out of they didn't take it out of real estate, they took it out of their other investments, right? They took 10% out of the other three categories and dumped it into cash. Why would they do that?
We saw all of things, right? The equities market went down, right? We saw the stock market go down in 22.
Sure.
And then we also saw traditional savings instruments like savings accounts, CDs, start paying higher interest rates. You could get 5-6% in some cases on those. So there was movement from one to the other. We probably saw it back reverse a little bit this year as the stock market improved.
Well, again, this is high net worth individuals, and what most people don't realize is that if you're a high net worth individual and you have a unique banking relationship, you're going to get unique interest on your money such that having it in cash isn't what it used to be. It actually is giving you a reasonable rate of return on your money.
No, but it also shows you that there's a ton of money that's on the sidelines. So if you're like King or Tanner, you wake up every day and think of yourself as a full-time investor.
Amen.
You have a good deal, there's plenty of money to do it.
There's plenty of money. That's exactly right. Yep. All right, luxury days on market. Actually, not much news here, which is really surprising to me.
Yeah, we kind of saw it hit a bottom in 2022, right? Everything was crazy. We got the gap between luxury and non-luxury kind of shrink really. They got really close together. We saw that spread back out this year. Other than that, it was sort of kind of returned to what I would consider more normal days on market.
To me, that's nothing. I mean, we've seen like 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go back to the financial crisis, it was,
We've seen like 2 years. That number right there, nothing.
Jay, how are we defining luxury on these slides?
What's that?
How are we defining luxury?
So luxury, we're defining it, see if I get this right. It's $1 million or higher, or the top 10% of the market.
that's correct.
Yeah. $1 million are the top 10% of the market.
It looks right past the economist and asked me to define it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's to me, this is kind of like no news right now. To me, this feels like almost business as usual in this kind of a climate. So there's no news there. And looking at commercial real estate, yeah, there's some headwinds and challenges there, right? So if we look at these four categories, we have office, which has high vacancy rates, highest vacancy rates on record, which is like 19% or 20%.
Yeah, and over
overall.
19%. And when we look at the, 2.8 trillion in rolling debt, we think about half of it is in office space. And so that's the biggest question mark. Are people going to come back to the office? Are we going to get those rent rolls back up? Or are we going to have to figure out some other solution for that part of our commercial space?
Yeah, it's a challenge. And like you said, the 2.8 trillion coming up to be, it's going to have to be refinanced or paid off, one of the two. So it's at risk. All right, tell me about multifamily.
You saw an absolute boom in building multifamily because rates were so low. Now you have a ton of inventory. Q4 was the first quarter where we started to see rents actually start to tick down.
Yeah.
All kinds of anecdotal evidence that landlords are starting to offer more and more incentives, particularly driven in the luxury apartment market. They got to get people in. They don't want these places sitting empty. Now they're throwing in all kinds of goodies.
That's interesting. How about retail?
Yeah, so I think, everyone's probably seen in their own towns this sort of transition from, traditional box stores with a lot of inventory and things like that to more mixed use where, upstairs you got apartments, downstairs you got stores. And in those stores, a lot of times it's like, you go to the Apple store and you're like, I need a new phone, and they're like, you'll get it tomorrow, right? So you're going in, you're looking at merchandise, you're having an experience, they call it, and then you're ordering basically online in the store. So that's sort of a tradition we're seeing there. Transition.
And how about industrial?
Yeah, and vacancy rates are up above pre-pandemic levels, but they're not unhealthy right now. Industrial pulling back a little bit. We saw that massive e-commerce boom right during the pandemic. No one's going out to buy stuff; everyone's ordering stuff online. And the retail transition we're talking about, also e-commerce. So we saw a ton of space get built there. It's pulled back a little bit. Rates have come back down as people started going out of their houses. So there's a little bit of adjustment, but right now rent growth is still positive. Vacancy rates are still good. Just kind of adjustment, but not anything, not a real contraction there.
Right before the pandemic, we tried to buy, in a partnership, tried to buy the office building that we're in, Keller Williams is in. And I think we had a price that was in the 80s million, right? And they got horsey, and ultimately the deal wasn't done. And then the partnership came back, which we were a part of, came back, and we bought it for what? In the low 51. Oh, 61.
That's what happens when you have John Keller.
No. It was we were just
Figure that out.
we were just part of a partnership that did it. But my point, though, is that there's a massive opportunity that's occurring out there.
Yeah, that's one of the possible solutions to office, right? Is that as these buildings kind of like have to be remortgaged or don't get remortgaged, there's a lot of private equity cash out there seeing value in the future, right? They'll just
lot of
gobble
money.
them up and wait.
A lot of money out there. Yep. So we talked about this. There you go. But it's definitely going to drop. Why? Because they overbuilt.
It was a boom time. That industry boomed.
Yeah. That's no question about it. Yeah. Loan delinquency rates are again, they're at an all-time low. So we just have to watch that. That's all.
It's that ticking time bomb, though. 19.6% vacancy rate in these buildings.
We're going to have to watch. Something's going to give. That's right. And yeah. It will be amazing if we do this tightrope walk on the economy. There's a lot of things, moving parts and things going on right now. I don't believe that translates into lower units sold in America or Canada. Okay, I don't. The reason is because I think you already had your recession. I think you're already at your low point and you're riding now. Okay, that's what I think. But all those things could add up to better affordability. So that's what's interesting. Okay. All right. Listen, industry. A couple of things. The great convergence. We show you this every year. The reason why we do is because people tend to overestimate the short term, then they underestimate the long term. So things don't go, everyone gets excited and say the sky's going to fall, then the sky doesn't fall, and everyone says, oh yes, the sky's not falling, and then 5 years later it falls. Okay? So understand that all industries that surround the real estate space are all moving towards the search, buy, own, sell technology platform. They just are. Most of the tech that you use today is probably the research department for a bigger company or a different company, okay? They may merge, they may get bought. Just pay attention, that's all. The march is moving on. When people ask us, why are you messing around with technology? The only reason is it's an offensive and a defensive move, that's all. We may look up someday and go, why the hell did we do it? That could happen, and we all look up and go, shh. On the other hand, we could look up and go, oh, thank God we did, right? There are only 3 real estate companies today that own their own technology.
Yes.
The rest of them are all renting it. The rest of them are renting it from most likely their future competitor. That's just the way it is. And whether that means anything or not, I don't know. I'm not that smart. I just look up and go, I'd rather be safe than sorry. That's all. So I just pay attention. It's out there, right? It's a very real thing. Industry events, let's go through this. So antitrust lawsuits, woo! Yeah. So we tried to win. We did not win. And then we looked up and realized that the right thing to do was to settle on behalf of everyone in this room. And that's what we did. Those that didn't clap are completely out to line. Yeah, completely. Yeah, what? Yeah. The challenge, though, is that right now, the voices that you hear are the voices of individuals who either believe they're not going to get sued or will not be sued. The people that everyone else, please understand, this is an active lawsuit. It is ongoing. And as a result, you're not going to get any of us to talk about it. We hope that our settlement gets approved, and we hope that things move on. Okay? And that's what we hope for. But you're not going to get comments out of anybody who is involved in it. Right? That just wouldn't be appropriate.
I don't know if we're going to put it up now, but we wrote a class together. We wrote a class called Value Squared.
We did.
And it's how to address the world in the wake of these decisions and where we think the industry is going.
Yes.
And we're teaching it twice here at Family Reunion. And we are teaching it together 4 times over the month after. So I would tell everyone in here, you need to sign up and go to one or all of them so that you can start talking about value the right way and we get way ahead of this.
Thank you. Yes. So our response to all of that was to write a course, not to talk about the lawsuit, but to answer the question, okay, so what? So how do we go out and how do we run our businesses? Jay's teaching it twice while we're here, and we will also be teaching it over the internet, the 3 of us, 4 times.
Yeah.
Click it once and then we'll get there you go.
Hey now.
Get it on your phones. You get all the dates so you can make sure that you can attend.
We'll give you a second.
So hypothetically, on these dates, we should have 200,000 people on the coolest Zoom call ever.
Should. Yeah. And we'll walk you through it, okay? All right, homes.com. So, big news, right? They invested the money not only in their technology, but they also invested it in their marketing, and they became the #2 portal. In fact, we're going to have Andy up here in just a short while, and I'm going to interview him.
Yeah.
Be awesome. #3, Zillow acquires Fellow Boss. So it's not really big news, except let me just remind you of that chart. Yes, it's the great convergence, right? State and cities changing their zoning laws and limiting short-term rental. That's a big deal.
Yeah, this is all about trying to increase density inside of cities, right? We've got housing shortage, we've got affordability issues. So they're basically changing multifamily or single-family zoning rules to allow for more what they call middle housing, which is duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, those kinds of things.
ADUs.
Yeah, and then also adding multifamily in more places. Like California made it to where in commercial areas you can add more multifamily homes.
Very fascinating, right? Jason was excited for #5, the first U.S. 3D printed neighborhood completed in Texas.
Yeah, that was in Austin. We were big supporters there. The environmental impact of transporting construction materials to sites is absolutely astronomical. The idea that you can now print these houses could be be an absolute game changer, and they come in at a price that I think is very attractive.
That's real interesting. You go online, just type it in and look at them, and they're selling them in Austin, Texas, by the way. Buyers and institutional buyers, that changed as well, right? They struggle.
Yeah, we really saw iBuyers struggle. They're kind of trying to right now to get their books back in order and survive basically to the next run up in prices when they can start to try to take advantage of the market again. Institutional buyers, they're lining up cash right now. That's your built for rent market. That's a big trend we're seeing there right now. There's billions of dollars lining up.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out how to make a profit. They can't make one. They brag about EBITDA and gross profit, but at the end of the day, they need to make money. And they still have, they've now gone through an entire cycle almost, and they still can't figure out how to make money.
That's right.
So some of the housing media at the time had said that was going to represent 50% of all transactions by 2022. Did they get there?
Absolutely not.
I will make a plug for our buddy Tim Heil, and that is Homework actually is a win-win solution for institutional buying, and they will make money. So check them out. Generative AI, anybody want to say anything?
It can make a great menu of high-protein food items.
Yeah, it's kind of fell flat, and it can do some interesting things, but it really hasn't taken off like everybody said. Oh my gosh, it's going to change the world today.
Yeah, it's a tool, right? It's going to take time for people to figure out how to use that tool to their advantage, but we know it can do some things. It's not going to go away. So just something to like keep paying attention to and like keep up to date with, so that
It's going to have a long tail. It's going to take time. That's all. It's not going away. It just did not last year. It did not do whatever other than writing a listing description, which by the way does a heck of a job for that.
Well, and
In fact, we're adding that into command.
And the AI playbook that we wrote, I mean, you still have 9 things in there that are as true the day we wrote them that you can put into your business today.
Yep. All right. So let's go through this. So every year NAR puts out their study that they do, and we highlight some of the things that really matters. The thing that you need to pay attention to with first-time homebuyers is that it is again hovering at an all-time low. The number is about 40 to 42. That's what you'd like to see. And we got a bunch of millennials that can't afford to buy a house. And that's what's killing this number.
I was kind of shocked that it jumped back into the 30s with the interest rates where they were. So I don't know if they were taking advantage of the new builds or some interest rate bargains. I don't know.
You also have the...
No, 25% is a shocking, 26% is a shocking number. 32 feels better. But notice, we've been in that mode even when the cost of money was low. Even when the cost of money was low, because we have the people that should be buying, first-time homebuyers, have different buying habits. They look at things differently.
Well, the average homeowner is at its oldest age right now. You're talking 36 years old.
Yeah. So primary reason for purchasing a home, again, we go through this not necessarily because it's earth-shattering or it's new, but it reaffirms what you understand, right? And the number one reason that people buy a home is because they want one, right? And then but if you think about this, when you're going out to talk to people, this list is your list, right? I want to own it. I want to have a larger home. I want to be closer to family and friends. I have a change in my family situation. I have a change in my job. I have a desire for a smaller home. It's time for retirement. In my community, the last decade, it's all been about, it was built in the 50s, our neighborhood, and literally everybody's left. They sold their homes, prices had appreciated. They took the money and ran. And had you been farming that neighborhood, you'd have had a career in 10 years.
Yep.
You would have had a career. It's unbelievable what happens. The whole place just turned over. Yeah. Right? Affordability, financial security, it's all there, right? These are your reasons. Nothing's changed. Tenure in a previous home, isn't it weird? Look out over the last 8 years, nothing's changing. We had a blip in 07. Other than that, it's about what it is.
Yeah.
People say they're going to stay longer, but they don't, by the way, which is really interesting. They don't.
They think about it in terms of a bigger cycle. They don't realize that life events are unpredictable, which is why they always guess 50% longer, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? I do want to point out that again in 22 and 23, all of a sudden, people stayed longer. Right? Very few people were popping out. Yeah. They're expected tenure. They expect on average to stay 15 years. They stay 10, right? And the interesting one is that 16 to 20, notice it's 11%, but look what they say. And it's very consistent over time. They say, oh, we're going to be here 40 years. Oh, we're going to be here 50 years, right? And then they end up staying, on average, 11. That's so odd. All right, so this, by the way, just get back. We'll see. Oh, hold on. I'll cover it. I'll say it in a second. So weeks at home search, nothing's changed. It still takes about 8 to 10 weeks for people to find a home. And what's fascinating is that hasn't changed dramatically with technology.
Well, and it also,
Technology did not speed that up. We're like, it's a day, it takes a week. You know, it takes 5 days to find a home on the internet. No, it takes the same length of time.
and it doesn't change dramatically with lower inventory. People find the house that they want in almost the same amount of time.
Yeah. Whether it's full of houses or it's not, it still takes roughly the same amount of time. It's
If
fascinating.
you look at it, Gary, it just tracks the market. When the market's hot, it's 8. When it's not hot, it's 12. Like,
Yeah.
what's out there? How fast do you have to move to get what you want?
It's just not a big deal. It's just not. It's just. I think it's because it just takes that time. It just takes that to see it, to make the decisions, get ready, do all of that. It just takes time. That's all. First step in the buying process, people look online. But what's interesting and I find fascinating is, wouldn't that be 100%? Right? I mean, don't you grab your phone for everything? I mean, right? I mean, I'm sitting there watching Tony. I grabbed him and said he's 63 years old. He's 6'6". I know everything about him. I even toured his house while I was watching him.
He's 63?
He's 63 and he's 6'6". Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know all about it. I'm just grabbing it, right? Said, what's the first thing you did when you thought about Tony? I grabbed the internet. I started looking. His house, wow. It's not what I expected, but a little weird. It's interesting. Hey, maybe some of you may like it. Go, wow.
I bet he's got a cold plunge though.
Yeah, go look at it. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. But I just thought that should be 100%, right? What's the first thing you did? I got on the internet, but it's not. I just think that's fascinating.
Ruben kind of pointed out the trend across all of this is that people now, the market's slowed down, they're looking for information on how to tackle the market. When it was back in 21, that hot market, they were just trying to take action. And so again, if you are providing useful information, it's your opportunity to be that person for them. To have your website be the one they're looking at, for them to call you.
Yeah, I think that number, contacted a real estate agent, to me, that's a really exciting number. What it says, though, is that you have an opportunity to be right there in the moment when someone is thinking about buying or selling, to be honest. You have to be in contact with them. You have to be in contact.
Well, and they want to learn the process. Well, the CEO of that, our buddy Rory, was saying, look, if you make a 6-minute video once a week and teach something that a home buyer or a home seller needs to know, and then put that out to the world, and then transcribe it and put it on your slate as a blog post, and then take that and cut it up into shorts, you literally start educating the world, and you're only making 1 video a week to do it. It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. I agree. Pretty simple. Yep. Information sources buyer use, 88% real estate agent. All right? And they're using the internet. By the way, open houses made a comeback over the previous year, which is interesting. Right? Online video sites, yard signs, just kind of hanging in there.
One thing that jumps out to me, open house is back in that 50%. It's across all, like every single slide. If you just look for open house, it's up. People are going to actually be physically in your presence to ask questions. And it's a huge opportunity for us to get back to the basics.
What this tells me is stay in contact, have a website, do videos, hold open houses, and make sure that you have a yard sign and directional signs if the neighborhood's allowed. That's the very bare minimum in order to go promote, right? Where they found the home that they purchased. Again, you would think it would say 100% internet, right? That's what you would think. But it doesn't. It doesn't happen. It's really interesting. Real estate agent about a third of the time. Okay? And again, what this doesn't say is, are they using the agent site? That's where this information, we don't actually know the answers because the way they ask the questions. Which sites are they using is what we don't know. Right? The value website features, this is like your checklist, right? And you're all going to get all of this. So when you're just going through and checking off on what you want your website to do, here's the answers. Detailed property information, property photos, floor plans, details about recently solds, neighborhood information, virtual tour, and your contact information. And that's kind of it.
Well, it's weird. It's like we get to see, because Ruben and Isaiah, thank you Isaiah, wherever you are that is out making this, we see year over year how these things go. They were less interested in everything but open houses. It's the only thing, about 10% more interested this year. Everything else is like, same.
Yeah. Yeah, method of home purchase, 89% use the real estate history. That's all you need to know. Our representation agreement, we could spend the next 2 days on this slide.
We're going to talk about this in value squared.
We do, because if you want to understand fundamentally how the industry got sued, it's because you don't do this. Yeah, because you are being accused of not being transparent. Okay? Yeah. If you ask me what should change in the industry more than anything else, is that every one of you leave here, and for the rest of your life, when you meet a potential buyer, you pull out your buyer agents, you pull out your value proposition, your service plan, and you pull out a buyer agency agreement, and you go through it, and you explain how you work and how you get paid. Okay?
Yes.
And by the way, we are disclaiming on all our training, so should you get sued in the future, it'll be your ass. Be real clear about that. Okay? Do it, damn it. Do it. If you're not doing it, maybe you should just get the hell out. There's a thing called professionalism. There's a thing called service. Try it. You might like it. Okay, what do buyers want from their agent? Buying the right house. Here's what struck me about this. What strikes me about this is, if you were to ask a professional realtor, what do we really do for our clients? We would say, help negotiate. We would put that high on the list of helping them get the best price and terms possible, right? Helping with the paperwork, making sure it gets done. All of that. We would place that high. But notice how little value, when surveyed, buyers put on that. Why do you think that's so?
Because we haven't educated them on the value of those services.
Amen, brother. You're not educating them. You're not slowing down enough for them to fully appreciate what you have the capacity to do for them. They're not valuing it. In the end, what you do is almost so transparent, they don't think you do anything. They discount it.
Yeah.
Notice the word. They discount it. Okay? They do that, right? So the course that we've written, our goal is for you to, if you're not already, to change the way you talk about your service approach and your value, so that you're fully helping people understand what you really do and can do for them. Okay?
You also have to make sure, as you're looking through these, this should be the blueprint to guide the words that you're using on your buyer consults in your listing appointments. When you look up and see that 50% simply want help finding the right home to purchase, you need to be sure that you're over-indexing on all the different things you do to help them find the right home. If you're saying anything else, you're not speaking to what they want.
Yeah. How buyers found their agent? Why? Pay attention. 43% last year referred by a friend, neighbor, or relative. They used agent previously to buy or sell a home. So literally 56%, right? 56% about relationship. When we say the real estate's a contact sport, it's a contact sport. Go make contact. Go make contact. Right? We spend most of our time trying to figure out how to make money and not make contact. Which is, the people that do that make the least amount of money. Because it's a contact sport. Make peace with it and go talk to people. If you'll do that, okay, you're going to be just fine. Right?
By the way, as we've been going, because we've mentioned Value Squared a couple of times, I'm getting texts from everyone saying, where do I register? You can register for that at events.kw.com. In the search bar there, just type in value, and it'll bring up the dates. It's free to register. That's where you'll find it.
Yeah, so buyer interviews, folks, if you're not number one or number two, you're not in the game. Right? Get there first, if you can. Most important factors for buyers: experience, honesty, trustworthiness, reputation, right? Relationship.
It used to always be honest and trustworthy first. I think it's actually kind of good that they're looking for an experience. They're realizing there's skill beyond just being honest and trustworthy. That's a low bar, if you ask me. I want an experienced agent to help me get the job done.
Yeah, you know, and the thing about experience is I got in this industry, I had no experience whatsoever. And I literally, everyone that I presented to did business with me. And oh, by the way, the reason why is because I had knowledge and I had honesty and trustworthiness. I had those things.
And professionalism.
Yes, that's exactly right. So when I see the word experience, I also put in there the word professionalism and knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I believe that's what is really matters, right? Right. I thought this is interesting, and that is people believe, look at it, 82% think real estate's a good investment. 82%, that's amazing. That is such a great number, by the way, right? Then we look over and we say, is real estate better than investing in stocks? Isn't it interesting? 54% say yes. Stock market would, you know, people in the stock industry would go, no. But apparently it's rated higher than stocks.
We see the wealthy put 15% of their wealth there.
Yes.
It's out there.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so here you go. Right? 90% would definitely or probably use you again and or send a referral. Send you as a referral. Wow. So if you just stayed in contact, you have a 90% chance? Holy cow. They don't give those odds in Vegas.
It's so easy to say, but that's literally the difference. And even if it's just a monthly neighborhood nurture and a quarterly phone call, if that's all you did, you'd be so much more likely to make
100%. Buyer-seller satisfaction, again, same thing. Varied to somewhat extreme. I mean, people are happy with what we do, folks. They are happy with what we do. How did sellers find their agent? Again, referral or use. Look at that number. Right? So that's 65%.
I have referrals from other agents and people at 43%. You add in repeat business at 26%. You're looking at 69% as just a communication game.
Yes. And that makes sense to me. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. Interview again. If you're not number one or two, you're not in the game. What sellers want? They want their home priced properly. By the way, how would they know? If you weren't there to actually help them, how would they know? And help it be marketed properly. help them sell the home within the right time frame. And notice, which again I think is really important, is notice how evenly all that is. They want you to help them price it, they want you to help them market it, they want you to help them try to get it sold within their time frame. That's what they want, right? Most important factors, it looks very much the same, right? Reputation, honesty, trustworthiness, when you say family or friend, just think of it as relationship. Again, 85% would use you again or refer you. Crazy, right? It's contact sport. Method used to sell the home, 89% used the real estate industry. Very consistent over time, by the way. Incentives, basically none.
Thanks.
And oh, by the way, we have a video real quick.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna switch gears slightly, and I want you to really pay attention to this video because we're gonna do something we've never done before. So watch this video, and then we'll visit.
Rainy days don't seem so wet. Stormy nights don't stay. From the moment that we met, you were worth the wait. Oh, this could be the best thing that I'll ever know. Talk for hours and never slept. Two silhouettes on the concrete steps. We watched the sun as it slowly crept from the horizon to the place we met. Oh, this could be the best thing that I'll ever know.
Okay, so we're gonna play that one more time for you, but I want to explain it now. So we know that more and more people are using social media to first hear from their people before they might ever meet them. And we wanted to arm everybody with a commercial that captured the essence of what being a real estate agent for life really means. And so here's what we did. We made that, and if you snap a picture of this QR code, you'll have the opportunity, if you want, to license that video. And what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll put your logo and your name on the sale sign in the video, and then we'll put your picture at the end and a message from you. So, and this was actually an idea. The best ideas come from real estate agents. This was one of your ideas that you asked for. Watch the video one more time, and now think of it like this. Would you feel confident? Would you feel comfortable? Would you feel honored to make this your commercial?
Yes.
Rainy days don't seem so wet. Stormy nights don't stay. From the moment that we met, you were worth the wait. Oh, this could be the best thing that I'll ever know. Talk for hours and never slept. Two silhouettes on the concrete steps. We watched the sun as it slowly from the horizon to the place we met. Oh, this could be the best thing that I'll ever know.
So good. All right, everybody, click that QR code if you want the info.
I got teary eyed.
It's so good. It's so good.
Andy, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. This is family reunion. You've got a big family.
We do have a big family.
We do.
All right, so my guess is no one knows who you are. I'm kidding about that. But if you would take us a second and just tell us a little about you personally, and then tell us about CoStar. Just help us understand.
Sure. So I came from a real estate family. Mom was a real estate agent her whole life, her whole career. I learned how to use a post hole digger at 11 to put a for sale sign out front. I did the open house signs. My brother's a broker. My dad's an architect. My son's becoming an architect. My sister is a designer. And then I just found out that my niece is back in the exhibit hall with a company called Canva selling real estate marketing software. So the whole family, if you drop by the Canva Creative Juice booth, Fanny, say hi to Fanny, tell her Uncle Andy says hi.
You got it.
So we come from a real estate family.
Now, where are you from?
Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was at college and I was studying physics and economics, and I started making money to pay my way through college, writing software for real estate developers.
And where did you go to college?
Princeton.
Okay.
And fell in love with the concept of digitizing real estate, and I've made that my whole career. So I started CoStar as a junior in college, and the first product was for the commercial real estate industry, the CoStar, which is for leasing, valuation, sales, prospecting tenants. It's now used by 200,000 commercial agents around the world, and a lot of residential agents too. When we started the company, the name CoStar was very intentional. It was co-starring with the agent who was starring in the transaction. So we always built the company around supporting and creating value for the agents, and that's what we've done for 4 decades. So, and then we built LoopNet, which is for marketing real estate, commercial real estate typically, out to investors and tenants. And then we built Lands of America, land.com, for marketing farms and ranches. Then we built Biz Buy Sell for selling businesses, which is often connected with real estate. And then we built an application called Real Estate Manager that half the Fortune 1000 uses to manage their leases, critical dates, rent payments. We pay manage $40 billion in rent payments. Then we built an application called CoStar Lender, which is used by every major bank to analyze risk in their lending portfolios. And then we have a company called STR, which all the hotel rooms in the world gather up each night what they sold and what for, and we build benchmarking, and then we help investors understand what the hotels are worth. And then we have 10X, which is an auction platform for agents to use. And then apartments.com, change your apartment, change your world, is the #1 marketplace for renting or leasing up an apartment. And then now we're working on my real life's passion, which is homes.com.
Yeah. So you know, just so you know, you're probably the first person I've ever interviewed on stage like this.
First person interviewed on stage?
Ever.
For real?
You may be the last.
I'll enjoy the moment then.
No, I think that you know you've built clearly, maybe arguably the most successful real estate data business in the world, and congratulations on that.
Thanks very much.
Now, and you've been very bold and a little feisty about what you want to accomplish with Homes.com. And candidly, we just thought everybody would want to hear from you personally. What is Homes.com? What are you trying to accomplish? Can you share some of that?
Sure. So we are committed to building the #1 residential real estate portal in the United States. We're going to build that on the basis of your listing, your lead. This is for so many reasons. We build all of our products by going out around the country doing focus groups and listening to agents, buyers, and sellers and understanding what they want, and this is what they want. Not just the agents, but the buyers and sellers want this too. So we don't think there's a successful platform in the United States. Having a lot of traffic is necessary to be successful, but it's not sufficient. We want to build a platform that has the most traffic, but also creates value for the agents, the sellers, and the buyers and the investors. Actually, it's profitable and sustainable, unlike the other ones that are out there. So we heard from agents that they want to have their brand out there, they wanted their name out there, they want to have their firm out there, their bio, looking at how people choose agents, its experience. We want to put that experience front and center for people, for the consumers, the sellers, and the buyers looking for agents. We know that agents want to have their relationships with their buyers and sellers respected and protected on a site, and we're doing that. We know that the agents want a lot of traffic. We're certainly building that up. And then they want buyer leads, seller leads. And then something we're doing that no one else is doing is we're not putting all of our energy on focusing how do we just do a buyer agent referral. We are focusing first and foremost on helping the seller and the agent sell their home as quickly as possible for the best value. So the internet provides a lot of opportunities to help sell a home, and no one's really using those in the United States. So promoting the listing higher, retargeting buyers, presenting a lot of rich information around the community the home is in, that sort of thing. So we're doing all that, and but then also buyers want loud and clear. They don't like the model where the agents are washed off the sites. They like to be able to see who the agents are. They like to be able to see their experiences and bios. The sellers want their people taking the calls. They want the agent they selected to be the one that people make contact. They don't want some stranger to be effectively representing their home. The best part about it is when you build a site around what people want, it's going to be more successful, and it's already happening. We crossed over 100 million. Thank you very much for point number 2, which was homescrossedrealtor.com. It was hard to read backstage backwards. It's like Russian, but we passed through Realtor.com's traffic. This month, I think, will be about double their traffic, if not more. And if you look at what we've accomplished in the last 2 years, 2 years ago, Zillow was at 230 million uniques. They've fallen down to 190. At the same time, 2 years ago, when we bought Homes.com, which you point out one of your books is a great URL. When we bought Homes.com, it had 6 million unique visitors. I believe this month we will be at 160 million. So we're closing fast in an agent-friendly model. And we did all this before we really began marketing. And we just launched the biggest marketing campaign for real estate ever, by far. We're investing well over $500 million this year alone. We'll be investing several billion in marketing the site. We will reach 90% of U.S. households. The average household will see an ad from Homes.com 600 times this year. And that will drive a lot of impressions to our site. And I believe that will drive several 100 billion impressions or views for agent names, bios, and logos. So this is a lot of fun. We're cranking it up, it's working, and then we just began, all the agents we've been generating millions of free leads for folks. And any given month, for free, agents are being seen about 8,000 times. Their listings in there are being seen about 8,000 times on our site. But we just opened up the ability for someone to become a member of the site. And then you go from 8,000 impressions a month to 1.4 million a month. So you become the dominant presence in your neighborhoods and on your listings when you're a member, because we sort you to the top. We put your name on the neighborhood pages and on the school pages and all this great content we've built with significant investment. And I think last 2 weeks, 200 Keller Williams folks have signed up. I think Renkus Group team signed up yesterday. I think Renkus is over here somewhere. So we're having a lot of fun with it, and it's I think Mom would be proud of what I'm doing.
You're good. Well, that's important. So, tell them how they can get involved.
Well, I think I think right off the bat, whether someone's a member or not, it's really important to make sure that you've got a great photo you like up there, that your bio is loaded up to the site, that you've claimed your profile, and that you are aware of the leads we're already generating. So, from the back end, I can see that there are a lot of good leads that come in that sometimes people don't respond to. And it's important to remember that there are lots of different leads that get generated across the internet. Some of them are lower quality, some of them are higher quality. Leads that are going out, the same lead that's being sent out to multiple agents is lower quality, because you got to be there in seconds or it's no good. Leads that are low intention, where someone just clicks on a Facebook exposure, pretty low intent. The leads that are coming from our site are super high quality, because it's your name, your listing, or on something you've got, and they know they want to talk to you about one of your listings. That one you got to respond to. Or they've looked you up and they search for people who have a lot of experience in a particular neighborhood, and they want to reach out to you. Don't let that lead sit there, jump on top of it, because they're good leads. We're hearing these are converting to business, so jumping on those leads fast really matters.
So there's a stair step of my listing, my lead. There's a certain amount of leads that are not my listing, my lead. But then at the highest level,
all of them are your listing, your lead. So it will be, what happens there is, and we never put anyone else, we never redirect a lead to a different person. We never put a different person's name on a listing. We always have the agents front and center. And that's important for generating buyer representation, future seller, and then selling the home, is to have the right contact up on that listing. But members, like if someone looks for homes for sale in Dallas, your listing might be on page 15 or 20. But if you're a member, your listing is going to be on the first page or two. It's just where it controls the sort order. And believe it or not, people tend to buy more homes from page 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 than they do on page 20 and 30. And where it's really particularly important is when people are probably a third of the leads we're sending is where the buyer or seller searched our agent directory, and they saw some agent who does deals who has experience in Dallas in the 500 to $1 million range. And that's where people, like you had it up here, that's where people talk to 1 or 2 agents. So showing up on the first page is super important, because nobody is going to page 10. So we sort the agents in response to which agents have experience in this school district, which agents have experience in this neighborhood or city or in this property type. And members sort higher, and then they get more leads. A member gets about 10 times as many leads as a basic agent.
Gotcha. So, what should they be concerned about, Andy?
Well, I would, it sort of blows me away. I travel the world. We have a lot of business overseas. We have offices in 20 countries. We have residential platforms overseas. And I talk to the CEOs of real estate portals in other countries, and they don't believe me when I tell them how Zillow and Realtor work. When I tell them that the agents' names are stripped off their listings and the leads are sent to their competitors, they think that's insane. They can't believe that's going on. And so I think the number one thing to be worried about is the status quo is unacceptable. The status quo is unacceptable. And so I think working to try to bring the brands and the agents front and center. People really value their real estate agent, seller or buyer. The data all shows that. And they want to choose who they're going to work with. Was there a good fit with experience and the person resonates with them? And that's what you do on a site like homes.com where the agents are transparent and visible. People do not like the situation where Zillow chooses an agent for them based on how much that agent is paying Zillow. That's not the right way to have it work. So I think trying to look to pull the valued leads, present yourself on our platform, I believe we can be the number one in traffic within the next year or so. We are out investing any other platform at least 10 to 1, 15 to 1. So if our budget is north of $500 million a year for branding, I think number 2 is spending $50 million for branding. Number 3 is spending $35 million for branding. So we will bring the sellers and the buyers to people on homes.com and take advantage of it, I think is the main thing.
And tell us about pricing.
Yeah, well, that's really important. I've heard rumors that Zillow is going to 50% split. I don't know if that's true or not. Someone here's probably heard something, but we don't look at it that way. These models in the United States, they're taking leads from 93% of the agents, and they're redirecting them to just 4 or 5% of the agents. And so they have to charge those 4 or 5% of agents a lot of money, like a big split, and an unreasonable split. We aren't looking at it that way. We want to work the way we work in all of our other businesses, where we make our service available to 50% of the agents, 60% of the agents. So by spreading the cost over many more agents, the costs are dramatically lower. So it depends upon where and how many listings someone has, but the average is a couple $100 a month, which could come down to, a couple $100 a deal instead of several thousand dollars a deal. So we want to bring the price point way, way down. And people are doing it, they're not paying per deal, they're paying just a marketing fee, because we're more of a marketing site than we're not a brokerage firm, we're a marketing site.
All right, we've run out of time. What did I not ask you that you want to say?
Well, don't forget to say hi to Fanny from Uncle Andy. She's going to get a lot of people going to go by her booth, but she doesn't even know I'm here.
What do you want everyone to go do?
I would ask, keep watching what we do. I would ask when one of our folks reaches out to you, give them 10, 15 minutes of your time to learn about what we're doing in a little more detail, and particularly in your area and how we might be able to help you. I think you'll find it interesting and informative, whether or not that's just that you can improve the free participation in this site or consider accelerating the lead flow and exposure. But, and then we have a lot of exciting things we're going to be doing. We're only halfway through the software development of what Homes is going to eventually look like. We have some very cool technology. We're looking at your list of what people want, and we're just checking off item after item after item on there. So just keep an eye on us. We're going to be doing a lot of cool things.
That's awesome. All right, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. What are y'all doing?
All right, gang.
I'm being run off.
Thank you, sir. We're going to switch gears a little bit. Everybody, please join me in welcome Jeff Glover. So, we just heard a conversation about the power of listings. And I was amazed, whether you realize it or not, Jeff, you and your team have taken over 10,000 listings.
That's correct.
So it's safe to say that you're an expert in this.
Close.
Why are listings so important?
Well, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I was very fortunate to have a broker when I first started that asked me the question. He said, Jeff, in this industry, you can either be the employer or you can be the employee. So, okay, tell me more. I was 18 years old, by the way, at the time. And his name is Tim Riley. He's no longer with us. He said, you can choose between those two. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, the employer works their butts off from 7:30 in the morning until 5, 6 o'clock at night, going out into the streets to get inventory and putting it on the shelves for all the employees to spend their nights, their weekends, their time with family, their holidays, all of this extra time that they would have out showing the inventory of the employers. So based on that, which would you rather be? I said, well, based on that, sounds like I'm going to be an employer. He said, okay, good. So I chose that path.
And that was all you needed to hear.
I mean, from there, he gave me a dialogue book, and I started practicing and role playing, and that's all I need. I just knew at that point. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean I didn't work with buyers and show houses. It just, you can only see so many linen closets before you're like, I'm good on showing houses. Like, yeah, let's open it up and let's take another look at this linen closet. Oh, look, linen. Love linen. I'm good on showing homes.
I too love linen. Yes. Cool. So, after taking 10,000 of them, you have a very specific way to do it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share that with everybody. In true KWU fashion, we made a one-pager.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about taking notes. Let's put that QR code up so that everybody can get that as we go here.
By the way, I love all the ones with the playbooks. I mean, if you guys haven't had a chance to check those out, they're pretty legit. Good
Thank
stuff.
you very much. If you click here, you're going to get to the one-pager. Now, Jeff is going to take us all the way through his listing presentation, and we are going to go in detail.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, how does this thing start?
So, first things first, I just want to say one thing before we jump in. There's 3 parts to the listing process if we just kind of dumb it down to the simplest form. You have the generating the listing lead, you have the listing appointment itself, which is securing the listing, and then you have selling the listing. One thing that I've noticed in this industry, too many agents focus on the actual generating of the listing lead. And in 21 years of doing this, over 10,000 listings, I would actually argue that the most important step is not the first step, not the last step in selling the listing, because of course the mind instantly goes, well, if I sell a lot of listings, then I'm going to get a lot of listings. No, it's actually the middle step, which is securing the business, securing the listing, because what I've experienced is if you have a polished, professional, dialed-in presentation where you're going out and securing a listing at a great price, it's going to sell because of that, first of all. And second of all, you're going to have the confidence, the knowledge, the enthusiasm, the money, the energy, and maybe even being willing to take a risk on, buying some homes.com leads so you can generate more listing leads because you know that your listing presentation is so dialed in and that you're going to secure more listings than you ever have. So I think it's just important to point out in this stage of the game, in 2024, we have to put more energy on that middle step, the actual process itself.
Absolutely. The challenge with all businesses, and specifically ours, is you have to be able to present your value in such a way that the consumer understands it before they ever get to experience it. Think about that for a second. They hire you before they get to experience your value. So the way that you present it is wildly important. So we're going to take 10 minutes.
Let's jump
We're going to go through this thing.
Yep. So step 1 is content creation. So you just heard Gary talk about helping the consumer understand your value. Of course, today more than ever as a great buyer's agent, but also as a listing agent, because consumers have choices that don't involve working with people. They have iBuy options, they have technology options, and so our value actually shows up in our actual content. And so our content should involve 6 things, all right? So number 1, promotional marketing. Your content should involve and include specifics on how you're going to promote their home. I think everybody already knows that. The second one that often gets missed, especially in today's world with social media, there's institutional marketing. And so institutional marketing is what you do to brand your team, what you do to brand yourself, what you do to brand KW. The way you're putting yourself out there to the public on social media, in videos like the one that you guys just put together, what you put out to the public, even though it might not necessarily be a tactic to sell their home, should be included as part of your listing presentation. Because everyone else is going out there and saying, here's what I do to sell homes. If you go out there and say, here's what we do to sell homes, and let me share with you how we promote, how our institutional marketing actually drives more traffic to us, which in turn drives more traffic to your home. Today, the way social media is, institutional is more important than ever. That's number 2. Number 3 is the pricing strategy. The actual delivery, and it's more important. See, I think a lot of agents, Jason, in my experience, I meet a lot of agents through the years that have said, oh, I'm really good at pricing property. I'm really good at pricing property. More important than pricing property is how you get the customer to buy into their home's value, how you articulate their value. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing this at the listing table like a lot of people do. Go ahead.
And you need the evidence. Like, if you're out there and you're using like the Ouija board method of real estate, where you're like, that's the price. No good. You have to be able to prove it.
Yeah, that's right. So after the pricing strategy, again, actually working on your dialogues to get them to buy into the price. So, having the CMA in front of them, not in front of you, pointing at actual specifics of the home and getting them to respond so they're buying in and it's their price, not your price. That's so important today, especially now that we're having to get price reductions. Number 4 under content creation is your visuals. You have to have visuals to back up everything you say. You can't just go on an appointment today and say, well, because interest rates are where interest rates are, things are changing. Things are different today than they were 2 years ago. Do you know what the consumer thinks when you say, well, it's not like the spring we had a couple of years ago? Do you know what they think after you say that? They think, prove it to me. Show me. Because what I've heard is different. Because they only watch what they want to watch. They only see what they want to see. They only hear what they want to hear. So you have to have visuals to back up everything you say, especially on your most pivotal comments, the ones that are going to be the difference maker of getting a right price or not, for instance. Number 5 under content creation is proof. You have to have proof to show the consumer that other people have trusted you, so they should too. Right? So this could be in the form of reviews. This could be in the form of your resume. This could be in the form of just examples of other properties you've sold. And then number 6, under content creation is you. How you show up matters. When is the last time you've Googled yourself and clicked on your Facebook and Instagram? How you show up matters. You understand today, and we talked about this in the podcast, consumers today, their mind is already halfway made up when you get there. They're already halfway convinced that you're going to be the guy or the gal, or not the guy or the gal, because everything they see and read about you before you show up. It used to be, we're interviewing 3 agents, and whoever gets the best appointment is who we're going to go with. Now it's, the appointment's got to be dialed in, but also how you show up before you get there.
I know, it happens to me all the time. People Google me, then I show up, and they're like, oh, you're a washout from HGTV.
Yeah.
You haven't been relevant since 2016. Well,
There you go. There you go. And I've had so many top agents in this room ask me, hey Jeff, what are you guys doing about your appointment set to appointment held ratio? It seems like we have to set more to go on the same. I said, well, you have to make sure all of your agents are showing up properly on social media before they get there, because the consumers are doing more research today than they ever have done before. That all falls under point number 1, content creation. Number 2, there's 5 steps. Number 2 is your practice. Okay? I know in 2024 we hear of practice and role play kind of like a 1990s thing. Like, that's like the old trainer stuff. Are you kidding me, Jeff? We got AI. I got like my phone doing videos and following me around and looking like me and talking like me. You're telling me in 2024 that I still need to practice? Yes. Because for the foreseeable future, as long as you have a listing appointment or a buyer consultation, consumers make a decision on who they're going to work with based on how you make them feel. Well, how do you make consumers feel a certain way? based on what you say. And so everything that comes out of your mouth on an appointment absolutely better be practiced, it better be rehearsed. I was very fortunate when I got into this. My first broker said, Jeff, because I said, listen, Tim, I'm 18 years old. I look like I'm 14. I'm driving my Pontiac Grand Am from high school. My business card, true story, still had my senior high school picture on it because, I was only 2 years out of high school, basically.
Some of our friends still use their high school pictures. It's good.
I said, Tim, how is anyone going to trust me with their real estate? And I'll never forget it. He said, Jeff, you just have to sound like you've been doing this a long time. And I looked at him like, really, Tim? That's your advice to me? You just have to sound like you've been doing this a long time? That's where I learned the value of writing, chanting, and role-playing.
Yeah, it's crazy. You say you have to handwrite it once a day for 30 days.
Once a day for 30 days.
You got to chant it by yourself once a day for 30 days.
Once a day for 30 days.
And you got to role play it with a partner once a day for 30 days, and then it becomes yours.
I started that in the summer of 03. And in September of 03, after I did the writing, chanting, and role playing, I took 11 listings. I turned 19 by then. 11 listings, not knowing a single soul. Just mastering my skill, mastering my craft.
Well, and that's really what allows you the next step. Step 3 is you can change your delivery based on who you're talking to because you're an expert in
Yes. Once you've dialed in the content and you know exactly what you're going to say when you go out there, now you can take to the next level and actually listen to the person that you're communicating with. Because of course we've heard for years the golden rule is treat others the way you want to be treated. The platinum rule in sales is treat others the way they want to be treated. So if I go on an appointment with Jason, I can't speak my language, I need to speak his language. And so it starts all the way back with the pre-qual process, finding out which one of the 4 styles you are, the high D, the high I, the high S, the high C, and then changing, actually having a note while I'm on the appointment to either slow down or speed up, or raise my volume, my decibel level, or lower my decibel level, or raise my enthusiasm, or lower my enthusiasm.
Well, Tony would say you're changing your state to change how they feel.
Without question. I mean, I think about this all the time. I have a lot of high I's will come up to me, at different events and say, Jeff, I know you teach the listing presentation. I have trouble with the high C personality style. Like they bore me, they look at me like I have 10 heads, I'm a high I, I would never hang out with them. Like, what do you recommend I do? So for where are my high I's in the room? High I's, where you at? Real high, okay, all right. They're always the loudest in the room, my high I's. So next listing appointment, I want you to try this out with a high C. Instead of asking for them to show you to the kitchen table where you set your stuff down and start chatting, I want you to ask them to guide you to the living room. And I want you to find a nice, great big sofa. And I want you to try doing your listing presentation just laying down for once. Like just your hands underneath you so you can't move them. And just kind of lay down and present. Now I'm kidding, I don't actually mean that. But no, seriously, but we have to remember my high I's. You have to bring down your energy and enthusiasm when you're meeting with a high C, because you're gonna freak them out.
Yeah, if you come in like JoJo the circus clown, they're gonna run the other way.
Yes. Now, by the way, my high C's, when you're going to meet with a high I, and this is, laying down was a joke. Please don't try that, okay? But my high C's, when you go meet with a high I, consider doing the listing presentation standing up around their kitchen counter, around their kitchen island. It will naturally raise your energy and enthusiasm, which is what they want. That's number 3. Number 4, communication. Here's a huge missing piece, or missing link, I'd say, when agents set an appointment to the time they get there. If you want more of the appointments not only to stick, meaning you're still getting the appointment, and also convert, then I'm gonna recommend that you have 5 touches to the appointment from the time you set it to the time you get there. 5. Here they are. Number 1 is a text message. Immediately after the appointment's set, send them a message and say, hey, thanks for the conversation, looking forward to seeing you this Thursday. Super simple. They got your cell, you're communicating via text, so you're not showing up as spam or anything like that. That's number 1. Number 2, under communication, phone call, all right? I'm gonna recommend that you're gonna call them and use a pre-qualification process. We're covering it at 1:30 today in the Craft Your Listing presentation. I'm going through the whole process. The phone call and the pre-qual process is important because it's gonna make you stand out amongst your competition. Because most of your competition, when they set an appointment, what do? They hang up the phone, they get all excited, they probably go to happy hour, I got a listing appointment for next Thursday, and they show up on Thursday. And the seller opens the door and says, I'm sorry, we called you, we already signed with somebody. because somebody else is doing all this work in between the time the appointment's set and the time you get there. So number 2 is a phone call sometime, and people ask me, Jeff, when do you make that phone call? I use the rule of thumb of split the difference. If you set it on a Tuesday and your appointment is on Saturday, call them on Thursday, somewhere in between. Number 3 is an email. I'm always sending them an email with a video letting them know what's going to take place at the appointment. Number 4 is a text message the day of, the morning. Hey, just want to let you know I'm finishing up some last minute things on your CMA. Looking forward to meeting with you today. And I might even ask them a question just to make sure they're engaged and they're still going to show up. Like, when, if you don't mind me asking, when did you finish your lower level again? Right? I might just ask some question to show I'm still working on it. And then finally, number 5, when I'm an hour away, I let them know I'm on my way and I'm looking forward to seeing them.
You know, and the last one is this pre-appointment package. And what you have there, we won't go through each one of them, but in order, the documents that he has.
Yes.
And here's what I'm taking. Right? The net of this to me is that you're leaving nothing to chance, and this is as much a science as it is an art. And I put up the slide for the podcast, because I was lucky enough to sit down with Jeff, and we spent an hour going deep on this. And that podcast for MREA, that dropped yesterday. So if you're digging this and you want to hear the details, click here to get it. And dude, thank you. It's so clear to me what a friend to the industry you are, because these are the skills we all need. I'm having you to my market center. I think you should travel the world and go to all of them. This is the conversation that we need to be having. Friends, Jeff Glover.
Thank you.
All right, gang, you are just getting started. Sit back and get ready to enjoy. You are about to experience the state of your company.
Keller Williams family, this is Mark Willis. We ask that you please keep your seats. We are taking only a few minutes to prepare the stage for your State of the Company address. We will share with you the highlights of what you accomplished in 2023 and our exciting vision for 2024 and beyond.